Hi, and welcome to our vlog on Proverbs. So, we're going to be following Proverbs through over the coming weeks and potentially months. There's no time scale to this, we're just going to go step by step. And the book of Proverbs is a book of practical living, it's a book of wisdom and how we can live our daily lives. And the whole Bible is really about this. It's about how we can live our lives in a practical sense, day by day, but putting God at the center of everything. And to be honest, Proverbs has been a book that I've sort of dipped in and out of rather than really looked at it in detail. And in the last few months, I've been really sensing that that's what the Lord has been asking me to do. So I am currently reading through Proverbs stage by stage and just little chunks each day and just meditating on those little bits. And it was during the last week that I really sensed the Lord saying to me that it was time to start doing vlogs on Proverbs. So that's what I'm doing. And we're going to take it stage by stage and small steps. So sometimes it will be shorter passages than other days. If you're not sure about the Book of Proverbs, and the Book of Proverbs is written by Solomon, and it's Solomon was the son of King David, and Solomon was given wisdom. Some of you may have been following the sessions that we did on Ecclesiastes. Well, Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes as well. So we're tying this all together, the book really of Solomon, and how the wisdom that God gives Solomon is being imparted to us. So we're just going to read the opening part of Proverbs, so Proverbs 1, and we're going to read it verses 1 to 6. So, and I'm going to read from the CSB version. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for learning wisdom and discipline, for understanding insightful sayings, for receiving prudent instruction in righteousness, justice, and integrity, for teaching shrewdness to the inexperienced, knowledge and discretion to a young man. Let a wise person listen and increase learning, and let a discerning person obtain guidance. For understanding a proverb or a parable, the words of the wise and their riddles. And that's very much outlining what Proverbs is about. As Solomon says, it's for learning wisdom, that the practical senses of day-to-day living, and discipline. Now, we don't like this word discipline. Discipline can, for many people, can mean something harsh. But this is what Proverbs is talking about as well. It's talking about discipline. And if we stray away from what Solomon is talking about in terms of daily living, practical living, wisdom in living, then we've got to be prepared for some form of discipline within our lives to pull us back into the straight and narrow. There's some amazing passages in Proverbs that really do bring this into play. So we need to understand that the book of Proverbs is about practical living and about the discipline if we don't follow God's word and don't follow what wisdom God is giving us. Solomon then says, for receiving prudent instruction in righteousness, justice, and integrity. The whole of Proverbs is about us. It's about God imparting his wisdom to us, and it's through Solomon that God imparts that wisdom so that we can live in righteousness, in justice, in integrity. And that's how we are called to live within this society, our society. It's also there for teaching shrewdness to the inexperienced. Now, inexperienced comes from obviously a lack of knowledge and a lack of something. And so we are being told that we are to be taught. And in another way, it's the word inexperienced there also actually means boy or youth or young person. So when you think about a young person is very young in their life, and they don't know everything. When we were younger, we didn't know everything. And we still don't know everything, but we are a young person We know a lot less than what we did now. And that's what this passage is saying here, that we are to be taught, we are to be taught as a young person. And I don't know about you, some of you may have heard, people saying to you, or even you've said it yourself, about the fact that because you're older, you know more, or something along those lines. That's a really arrogant thing to say. Shall I dare say that? Because we don't know everything, and we can always learn something. Now we learn from our experiences. But what the book of Proverbs is doing is giving us that teaching, it's giving us that learning. And if we are not embedded in the Bible, then we are not going to have that teaching, God's teaching, God's imparting to us through His Word. And we're not going to walk in that wisdom. So we need to make sure that we are looking and listening and meditating on God's word to get the wisdom that He wants to impart to us, the practical living day to day. Carries on by saying, knowledge and discretion to a young man, and we've just talked about that. Let a wise person listen and increase learning. A wise person listen. A wise person will want to learn. A wise person will want to have a better life. And so that's what the book of Proverbs is giving. For understanding a proverb or a parable, the words of the wise and their riddles, we are called to listen. And I was told not so long ago that learning is not learning until it's put into the practical. And as we go through this book of Proverbs, that is something that I feel is very, very key. There are a lot of things that repeat themselves, maybe in different words, but the idea and the theme is the same as what's come up before in terms of Proverbs. So as we go through this, there will be times where there's repetition in various ways. But the reason for that is to impart that learning so that we take that learning on board and we start to implement it. Because when we start to implement it, that changes our lives, that transforms our life, and it shows that we have learnt something. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking this book over the coming weeks and, let's say, potentially months, of what is God saying for our daily living, for our practical living in terms of Proverbs. So bless you. That's the start, and I really hope that this is going to be an amazing journey.